Let us go back to this. So what is a variable? Name given to a where we can store the data perform the change. During the runtime of the program. Variable is the name given to a memory location where we can store the data and perform the changes during the runtime of a program. Now, all the variable names are defined using lower camel. Example. So all these are variables. So what is a variable? It is a name given to a memory location where we can store the data and perform the changes during the runtime of the program. All the variables will start with all the variable names are given with lower camel. Right, boss? So what is a variable? It is a name. Variable is not the value. Variable is age. It is referring to the value 33. Variable is EMP name. It is referring to the value Satish. Satish is not the variable. Variable is EMP name. It is referring to the value of Satish. Salary is the variable. Right now it is referring to the value of 50,000. Are you getting my point? Am I clear? Right. But if you are looking at this, there are 3 points which are missing from my definition. Look at my definition. There are 3 points which are missing. Tell me what are those 3 points? I told it is a memory location. How much amount of memory is that? I told variable is a name given to a memory location. How much amount of memory? I am not sure. The definition is not giving me how much amount of memory is that. I told we can store the data. What type of data? Is it a numerical value, decimal value, string, date? What type of data is this? Then I told we can perform the changes. What is the maximum value? What is the minimum value? So the definition of the variable not giving the 3 properties. One is amount of memory it is given to the variable, type of data that is stored in the variable, and the range of the data that is stored in the variable. These 3 definitions are not given by variable. To answer these 3 questions, we have a next concept called data type. So what is a data type? Data type will tell you how much amount of memory is given to a variable, what type of data is stored in a variable, what is the range of the data that can be stored in a variable. All these 3 definitions are given by data type. I hope you are clear with this, right? Now, let me go to the next point. Data types. Data types will specify how much amount of memory is given to a variable, what type of data is stored in a variable, what is the range of the data, data type will specify how much amount of memory is given to a variable, what type of data is stored in a variable, what is the range of the data that is stored in a variable. These 3 points are given by the data type. Data type will specify. I told variable is a name given to a memory location. What is the size of that memory? I told variable will store the data. What type of data it is storing? Variable can alter the data. I told time to time we can change the value. What is the maximum value we can store? What is the minimum value we can store? That is defined by data type. Okay. Now, data types in Apex are classified. Data types in Apex programming classified as primitive data types, like we have Boolean, block, date, date time, decimal, string, ID. Object. Boolean primitive data types. Then we have S objects. This will refer to objects in Salesforce database. Account, customer. Then objects created for Salesforce defined Apex classes. Refer user defined Apex classes. Objects created for Salesforce defined Apex classes. Objects created for user defined Apex classes. Then we have collections, So these are the different types of data types we have in the Salesforce. One is primitive data type, other one is S object, third one is objects created for Salesforce defined Apex classes, objects created for user defined Apex classes, collections, enum, null. These are the different types of data types what we have in the Salesforce. Now, look at the format. Primitive data types. These are defined by the Salesforce, and the core concept of this data type is to store the data. All the data types will store address of the data. Only primitive will store data. Only primitive will store data. Age 10. Salary 50,000. Rest all the things S objects. Objects for an Apex class. Objects for a collections. Enum, null. All these hold reference to the location. But primitive will store data. Primitive data types are created by the Salesforce, and they are used to refer to the data. They are used to refer to the data. So let us take one by one. First, we'll start with Boolean. So what is a Boolean? This is used to store true or this is used to store true or false values. If you don't mention anything, default value is any data type you take. If you don't store the value, it is going to refer to null. Any data type you take, if you don't refer to the, if you don't store the value, it will refer as null. We have block. This is a block. This is a collection of binary data wrapped under one name. This is a collection of binary data wrapped under one name. Blob. This is a collection of binary data wrapped under one name. Basically, it is used for what? Storing files, documents, images, audios, bulk data. If you want to store a bulk amount of data, like I want to store this notepad, I want to store a file, I want to store a PDF, I want to store encrypted data. Data is encrypted, I want to store it. So if you want to store encrypted data, files, images, documents, we go with the blob. So this is used to store files, documents, PDF, or encrypted data. The next, Boolean blob. Next we had integer. This is a 32-bit number. It is used to store numerical value without decimal point. Now, it is a numerical value. It is used to store a numerical value without decimal point. What is the default value we had? Default value is null. So any numerical value without decimal point, if you want to store any numerical value without decimal point, you go with this. Now, how many bits I have taken? 32 bits. Generally, if you take 1 bit, what is the maximum value we can store? If you take 1 bit, what is the maximum value? 0 or 1. If I have 4 bits, last bit is always used for sign of the number. So how many bits are left out? 3 bits are left out. So what is the maximum value we can store? 2 to the power of 3 minus 1. Now if you have 4 bits, 1 bit will be used for sign of the number. So how many bits are used for representing the data? 3 bits. So what is the maximum value? 2 to the power of 3 minus 1. Now how many bits we have here? 32 bits. So what is the maximum value we can store? Maximum value we can store. So 2 to the power of 31 minus 1 bit will be used for sign of the number. 31 bits are used for representing the data. So 2 to the power of 31 minus 1. The next, long. What is this long? This is 64-bit number. 64-bit number means we can store larger value than integer. Integer is only having 31 bits. So data what we can store is 2 to the power of 31. Long is 64. 2 to the power of 63 minus 1. Whenever the integer is not sufficient for storing the data, the size of the integer is not sufficient for storing the data, we will go for long. Whenever size of the integer is not sufficient, then we go for long. Why long? This is a 64-bit number. It is used to store store numerical value without decimal point. Default value is, what is the maximum value? To the power of 63. Then we had long, then decimal. Decimal. What is the decimal? It is a 32-bit number. It is a 32-bit number. It is used to store with if you are referring to if you are referring to currency field, if you are referring to currency field of an object, it should be a decimal. If you are referring to a currency field in the table, it should be by default decimal. So it's a 32-bit number. It is used to store a numerical value with decimal point. Any currency field you want to store, any currency value you want to refer, it should be decimal. We have log, decimal, double. What is a double? It is a 64-bit number. It is used to store with the decimal point. It is used to store numerical value with a decimal point. Default value is the next we had, so what we have, boolean, blob, integer, long, decimal, double. Then we had ID. Whenever we create any record in the Salesforce, in the table, if you create any record, 18 character ID will be created by the Salesforce. If I save a new record, if I create a new user, anything you create in the Salesforce, if I create a class, if I create a page, anything that you create in the Salesforce, internally it will create a 18 character ID. Who is going to create? Salesforce will internally create 18 character ID. That ID is referred by, what was this? This will refer to any varied 18 character ID created by the default value, irrespective of the data type. Default value is ID. So we had, now what is the date? This will store the instance of a date. This will store the instance of the date. Date is referred in the form of date dot new instance of today's date is referred as system dot example date of birth equal to date dot new instance of 2016 to 23. Joining date this is what we repeat. So date, right. Let us go to the next one. When I say date type, this will store instance of a date and time. This will store instance of a date and time. This will store instance of a date and time. Now, date and time is referred. So we can say year, month, date, hours, minutes, seconds. Today's date is referred as current date and time is referred as current date and time is referred as system dot. I hope you are clear. So this is to refer to a particular date. This is to refer to a particular date and time. I want to refer to a particular time. I want to refer to a particular time. How to refer to a particular time? This will store the instance of a time. Time is referred as time dot new instance of. First, we need to understand what they are. Then we'll see how to use it. So what is the default value? Default value is example time t equal to time dot new instance of so what are the data types we have seen now? We have seen about Boolean, blob, integer, long, decimal, double, ID, date, date time, time. What if you want to take any string value? String. It is a collection of characters surrounded by single quote. It's a collection of characters. The collection of characters surrounded by single quotes. Default value. Now, last data type what we have is, if you know it is a string, you will take it as a string. If you know it is an integer, you will take as integer. If you know it is a boolean, you will take as boolean. When you are not sure what type of value we are going to get, then what will you do? If you know it is an integer, we take integer. If you know value without decimal point, integer. Value with a decimal point, decimal. Value with a collection of characters, string. Value as a true or false, boolean. Now I am not sure what I am going to get. One time you are going to send a numerical value without decimal point. Second time you are giving a collection of characters. Third time you are giving a true or false. Fourth time you are giving a date. Fifth time you are giving a date and time. I am not sure what value you are going to give. Then we are going to take object. What is object? This can store any type of data that is supported by Apex. This can store any type of data that is supported by Apex. Default value is null. Object is equal to this is how we create it. Default value is null. Now I can store a numerical value. I can store a decimal value. I can store a date. It can be anything. So object will support any type of data in the Apex. Object will support any type of data in the Apex. Object will support any type of data in the Apex. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm clear with this. Right. So these are the primitive data types what we have. These are the primitive data types what we have in the Salesforce. These are the primitive data types what we have in the Salesforce. I hope you are clear. What is the default data type? Default value for all the data types, default value is null. For all the things, default value is null. I hope I'm clear. Right. So primitive values will store data. 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 I hope you are good. Good. Okay. So let us go to the few examples.
Satish,
Yes.
in this only time data type, have you used TI?
No. It's only hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds. We only give hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds.
No, in the starting you have used TI. Okay.
Now, so let us take this. Now I want to collect a data about. I want to collect the data about a college. So what is the information you want to collect? I want to collect that information about the college, like college name, city, phone number. Now I want to like number of students, state, which university, established year. Now this is the data. Now when you're taking this is the information what you're going to collect about a college. Now college name, we're going to have a data like CBIT, Hyderabad. I have number of students, state, university, some fee. Now this is the data what I want to string. Now when you are trying to take the variables, first you are supposed to understand the format of the data. You cannot decide the data type based on the name. You are supposed to decide the data type based on the data. Let us take an example. Phone number I have taken. If I take 040-1234, it is a string because there is a hyphen symbol. If I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it become a number. It is integer. Now I told fees, I may give 1000 in alphabets. I can give a numerical figure called 1000. I can give 10 like this, or I can give 10 like this. Now what is the format of data you are storing? You want to store it as a TN or you want to store it as a 10? Now based on the property, we cannot decide the data type. Based on the format of the data only, we have to decide data type. Data type should be decided based on the format of your data. So understand what is the format of the data we are taking. According to that, we are supposed to create data type. There is a reason I have given these values. You cannot decide based on this. I told you an example right now. Phone number, I can give the phone number like this. I can also have a phone number like 1, 2, 3 mobile number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I take a mobile number, it becomes a long. If I take a landline, it becomes what? It becomes a string. Now, what is the format of the value you are expecting? Based on the format, you have to decide. Now, what is the data type here? If this is the format, now it is a collection of alphabets. So it should be Hyderabad is also a collection of alphabets. Now this is also this is no this is I give rupees specifically. Now tell me, established year 1957. It is not a date. It is what? Number. Suppose if I given like this, it is a date. But what did I take? 1957. It is. Are you getting my point? So based on the format, you have to decide data type. Data type has to be decided based on the format. Let us take another example. I want to collect some data about a product. Product name. So MFD, manufacture date. Then we had some data. Now I have something like product name. Some product name I am giving. Price. Quantity. Now create the data types for this. Create the data types for this. Make an attempt of writing it. Make an attempt of writing. Create the data types. Now, so data type we have string, decimal, decimal. It has a collection of alphabets and numerical values or special symbols. There has to be a string. Right, boss? Now, collect some data about a student. Take your own data and define. Collect the data about a student. Take your own data. Collect some information about a student. Collect some information about a student. Collect information about a student.
Hello, Supesh.
Yes.
If we give the phone number 1234 like that, is it a string or integer?
Integer. 10 digits. So we go for long. Not an integer, we go
If
for long.
okay.
You decide the format. You enter the format. As per the format what you entered, you have to decide. I may choose a different format, you may choose a different format. Now when I say age, you may give TN in alphabets or I may give 10. Now based on the format what you have taken, data type will come. So everybody may or may not have the same type of data. So you decide the format, then you tell what is the data type for this. Now, so what is the first one? Collection of data, collection of alphabets. It is teacher. Now, this is string. Why? We have this symbol. Numerical value is only digits, but we have a symbol here, so it is a string. Now, what was the next one? It's too lengthy, so integer will not be sufficient. I will take string. Right, boss? Right? So you are supposed to decide. Data type based on the data, not based on the name of the data. Now, what is the format of the data you want to take? What is the format of the data you want to take? As per the format, we have to decide. Now, it should be decided based on the format of the data. It should not be decided based on this. It should be decided based on this. You have to analyze what is the allowed format, what type of values I am going to enter here. According to that, we are supposed to define. I hope you are clear, right? Okay. Now, how do you define the variables now? Syntax of defining a variables. I hope everyone is good with this. Syntax of defining a variables. Variable declaration. Syntax. Data type. Variable name. Now, this is optional. This is optional. Integer age. String. I can also give value. Now, equal to value is an optional. Data type, variable name. Data type, variable name. EMP name is a variable. Now, what is the value of a price? 10,000. What is a variable? Price is a variable. The price is referring to which value? 10,000. Now, the date of birth is a variable. It is referring to today date. Now, variable will refer to a value. Variable will refer to a value. Age is a variable. What is the value? Null. EMP name is a variable. What is the value? Null. If you don't give any value, by default is null. City, value is null. Date of birth is a variable. Value is today. Price is a variable. Value is 10,000. Are you getting my point? Data type, variable name equal to value. Data type, variable name equal to value. So, any variable created with primitive data type are called as primitive variables. Any variables created with primitive data type, if the data type of a variable is a primitive, then they are referred as primitive variables. Any variable created with data type, primitive data type, are referred as primitive variables. Any variable created with primitive data type are referred as primitive variables. I hope you are good with this. Now we had reference variables. What are those reference variables? They will not store data. They will store the reference to the location where the data is there. Reference variables will not store the data. They will only store reference to the location where data is stored. They will not store the data. They will only store the reference to the data. Now what are they? Now your collections, S objects, objects created for a Apex class, objects created for a Apex class. All these are what? Reference variables. We'll see them one after the other. I hope you're good with this. Creating a variables, defining the. Now, let us go to the next one. When you are creating a variable, there is a scope called local variables and global variables. In the variables, they are classified into two types: local variables and global variables. What are local variables? What are global variables? So let us take the next one. Local variables. So what is this local variable and global variable? Let me make it a general example. Now, any one of you know Srinivas Nair? Do anyone of you know this Srinivas Nair? Right, he is my colony president. Does anybody know him? Right. So, but if you come to my colony, he is the president for tower number 2. Now, if you go to my tower and see, everybody say who is Srinivas Nair. Now, outside my colony, if you come out and say I am Srinivas Nair, nobody will recognize. Nobody know that this guy exists. Right? So, who is this? This Srinivas Nair is known only within my locality, only within my colony. Only within my colony is known because he is my colony president. Every Sunday he comes for collecting funds. That's why you remember this guy. Okay. Now, this is local. Now, boss, do you know KCR, boss? Right. KCR is known within my colony and outside my colony also. Now, recommendation of KCR will work outside my colony, within my colony. If I take a recommendation from Srinivas Nair, it will only work within my colony. Outside the colony, it never works. Am I right? So, who is this Srinivas Nair? Local. Local to my colony. Local to my colony. Now, if you say KCR is global to my colony. He is global to my colony. Are you getting my point? Now, local variables will not be, local variables cannot be used outside the scope. Now, when I say this, can I use the influence of Srinivas Nair outside my colony? Now, at max, I can use the Srinivas Nair influence with the Gurkhas or watchmen of my colony. Maximum, that's a scope. Or else, in the temple, I may get some extra prasadam. Right, with this influence. Am I right? Only because his influence is only within my colony. So, what all the houses we have, maybe 50 or 40, okay, with this and a couple of temples in that, only there we have the influence of the Srinivas Nair. Outside this, I cannot get this influence. So, Srinivas Nair influence cannot be used outside the scope. Why? Because people doesn't know that he exists. Right? So, anything that is defined within the scope. Scope means, flower brackets are called scope. What is this called? Flower bracket is called scope. Anything defined within the scope can be used only within the scope. Anything defined outside the scope can be used within the scope or inside the scope. So, if you define anything within the scope, it is local. If you define anything outside the scope, it is global. Now, what is the meaning of this scope? Try to get my point here. First, let me complete the scope. What is scope? This flower basis is called scope. Now, example, if. So, what was that? Scope of. If a flower bracket we are writing, what was this? Scope of if. Now, Right? What was this? Scope of now we write scope of class. Wherever we write flower bracket, it's called scope. Scope of interface. Scope of minute. So wherever I am writing a flower bracket, it's called scope. Scope of if, scope of for, scope of class, scope of interface, scope of method. Scope of try, scope of catch. This is what we are going to get. Different concepts of scope. Scope of if, scope of for, scope of class, scope of interface, scope of method, scope of try, scope of catch. Apart from this, are we going to use anything? No. So if you define if followed by flower bracket, if scope. For, okay, for followed by flower bracket, for scope. Class followed by flower bracket, class scope. Interface scope, try scope, method scope, catch scope. Are you getting? Wherever we are defining a flower bracket, it is a scope. Wherever we are defining a flower bracket, it is a scope. Wherever we are defining a flower bracket, it is a scope. Right? Are you getting my point? So every functionality will have the corresponding scope. So what is that flower bracket? Flower bracket indicates scope. Flower bracket indicates scope. So you decide whether it's a scope of if or a for as per the context. Right? Are you getting my point? Okay. Now let us get the local variables. So any variable defined within the scope is called local. So let me give you. Any variable defined within a scope are called local variables. Local variables cannot be used outside the scope. So what does it mean? Now I'm giving a integer h. Then I'm giving flower bracket. Now, tell me what are the local variables? Local variables. Only city. If you define a variable, it is a local. Age is not defined within a scope. Age is defined outside the scope. Now, age is not a local. If you define a variable, it is a local. So, city string I have defined. Age is not defined here. I am using the age within the scope. Age is defined outside the scope. Any variable defined within the scope is called local. Any variable which is defined within the scope is called local. Are you getting my point? Now, city is the local. If I use the variable, is it local? No, only if you define data type variable name. If it defined, it is called local. Any variable defined outside the scope is called any variable global variables inside and outside the scope. Global variables can be used inside and outside the scope. Same story. What are global variables? Age and name are global variables. I hope you are clear. Any variable defined outside the scope is global. Now let us take some examples here, use cases. Don't worry about the code, just understand the scope, local or global, that's all. We are not worried about what is the code I am writing. Now what was this? Scope of example. Scope of example. Scope of class. This is the program. In this program, let us take one by one. First, I'll go with the call. In the call, what are the local variables we had? For call, what are the local variables? Branch. Now, can I use this branch in the invoke method? Why? Any variable defined within the floor bracket that can be used only within the floor bracket. Now, can I use a name and age here? Can I use name and age within the show? Can I use name and age within the call? Yes. Why? Any variable defined above the floor braces can be used within the scope. Now these are defined outside the call. If you define outside the call, I can use them within the call also. Now name and age are what? Global. Outside the floor bracket, if you define, it is a global. Anything that is defined outside the floor bracket is a global. Can I use the global variables within the scope? Yes. Then go to the next. Invoke. What are the local variables? For invoke, what is the local variable? What is the global variable? Now, these two variables are defined within the floor bracket. They can be used only within that floor bracket. These two variables are defined outside the floor bracket, so I can use them within this, within this. I hope you are good. Right, Amma? Let me give one more example. Now tell me this. Set data. For set data, what is the local? What is the local for set data? ACC. ACC is the local. Global. Right. Now for reset. For reset, what is the local data? Now this ACC and above ACC both are same or different? This is a local to this. This is local to this. They both are not same. Names are the same, but both are not same. Their values are different. What is the global? I hope you are good. Anything defined within the scope is called local. Anything that is defined above the scope is called global. Locals cannot be used outside the scope. Globals can be used outside the scope. Globals can be used inside the scope and outside the scope. I hope you are good with this concept. Everyone has followed this? Clear, boss?
So Sati,
Yes.
rating will also come, right?
Come again?
Yeah, the rating
Yeah.
rating will come as
Yeah, I have not seen that rating value actually. Stage and rating. Industry stage rating. Right, Amma? I hope I am good with this example. So we just seen what is a data type, what is a data type, and we have seen about variables and the creation of local and global variables. So tomorrow is Saturday. Okay. On Monday we meet back and we are going to discuss about statements and how to define methods, how to write the logics, basic logics using the variables, how to create a basic logic we'll be seeing. Right, boss? That's all from mine.
Satish, one question I had. On this time, we are not mentioning any time zone or anything like that. So how this calculate?
Now, time zone is not mentioned in the data type what we are given here. This is only going to hold the data. Okay. Here we are not going to mention. For time zone, these are different functions. These are different type, different functionalities we have.